Hello, good morning everyone. My name is Rachel. I am an environmental educator at Sea Turtle Inc. Sea Turtle Inc. is a nonprofit organization and sea turtle hospital in South Padre Island, Texas. Today we're going to be talking all things trash and turtles. So we're currently having very high tides here on South Padre Island, and these high tides are also bringing in a lot of trash. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about trash and how it affects sea turtles so people become aware of these problems, and then we can also then focus on solutions. As usual, let us know where you're tuning in from. We always love seeing where our viewers are from. So we're gonna first start by talking about some of the trash that we have found right here on South Padre Island. Before I show you some of it, I would love to hear what you guys think are the most common items found out on the beach during cleanups. There's a few different categories, so I'd love to hear if you have any ideas. So I'll give you a few seconds before I show you some of these items. Some of them you might get, and some of them you might be surprised by. Give you a few seconds. All right, now that we've all thought about it, one of the most common items we find are actually bottle caps. So we find bottle caps all the time. So all this trash I'm showing you, we found right here on South Padre Island while we were doing some cleanups, whether it be a formal beach cleanup or sometimes, we just go out and we patrol, or we're looking for a stranded sea turtle or nesting mamas, and we find trash, so we pick it up. So I have some bottle caps here. Bottle caps really commonly kind of get away from people, right? Because something important to note about trash out on the beach and in the ocean is it's not always a purposeful act, right? It's not someone picking up trash and throwing it in the ocean or leaving it there. Although that does happen very commonly, we see it here all the time on the island. We can kind of see an area where someone set up their little beach setup, their towels, and then there'll just be a ring of trash around that setup, which is really sad, right? We should not be leaving trash out on the beach. But sometimes it's just by accident. And this happens because a lot of plastic is very light. So let's say I'm having a drink out on the beach, a bottle of Coca-Cola or something. Let's pretend this is a Coke bottle. So I might set it down next to me, and maybe I don't screw the lid on very tightly, right? And all of a sudden a wave comes, or maybe a strong gust of wind, it's gonna blow that over, and it's really easy to lose these. Another example is, let's say I'm at the beach and I take my bottle and I put it in the trash bin that they have all along the dunes. So my action was, I'm putting this where it belongs, in the trash bin, right? So it's a good act. But we have to think about that sometimes accidents happen. So maybe that trash bin actually gets knocked over, right? Or maybe I put this in the recycling bin, and on its way to the recycling facility, it's blown over. And so sometimes trash just ends up in our environment by accident. So it's important to acknowledge that, because a lot of it is not direct acts of someone littering, it's by accident. So that's okay, right? But we have to work on correcting those actions. And that's why every single time I go to the beach, I clean up the trash I see around me. Of course, it's not my trash. It's not glamorous to be picking up other people's trash, but it does have a lot of harmful effects. This bottle that I showed you, bottles are another top item that we found out on the beach. You can notice it's covered in all of these holes. Can anyone tell me what these holes are? If you've been to our facility or watched our videos before, you might know what these holes are. Hi, Lauren. I see someone's tuning in from Kentucky. My dad is tuning in from Pennsylvania. Robin's tuning in from Europe. Thank you all so much for tuning in. So these little diamond-shaped cuts, do any of you have any guesses as to what they are? I'll give you a hint. It's very relevant to sea turtles. Any guesses? If not, I'll go ahead and tell you. But if you're watching this later, try to think of what these could possibly be. They're actually turtle bites. So turtles have beaks, and so they leave little diamond-shaped imprints in the trash that they take bites out of. And it is astounding how often we'll go out on the beach and recover trash, and it's covered in these turtle bites. So look at all these bottles covered in these diamond-shaped cuts. And the sizes vary a lot, right? So sometimes you'll see big diamond-shaped cuts, sometimes you'll see teeny tiny ones. And so all shapes and sizes of sea turtles are taking bites out of this plastic. And a lot of people ask us why, right? Why would they take bites out of trash when they have other food in their environment? If you can all wiggle your thumb for me, wiggle like this. That top part of your thumb, that's the size of a sea turtle's brain. So sea turtle brains are only about the size of a grape. if I bring up my sea turtle skull here, their brains actually fit in this hole right here. So you can imagine, if you had a grape-sized brain, if you saw trash in the environment, you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between trash and your food, right? It's especially difficult for sea turtles that feed on jellyfish. There are a lot of balloons. So balloons are another item that we find littered on the beach all the time. I have strings here and a balloon that we found. And if I shake up these broken up balloons in this bottle, you can see when these are floating around, they kind of resemble jellyfish or maybe a crustacean, right? It's very, very difficult for them to tell the difference. Leatherback sea turtles, which are the largest sea turtles in the world, they love jellyfish. So you can imagine how often do they encounter this in their environment and mistake it for a jellyfish. And also, sea turtles can live a really, really long time. Atlantic green sea turtles can live to be over 100 years old. So if I'm a sea turtle that is 90, 100 years old, right? Just in my lifetime, I have seen the introduction of all these plastics, these single-use items into my environment. And sea turtles are very, very curious creatures. They're going to mistake it for food, unfortunately. And we see it here at our hospital all the time. Our vet tech, Nina, she will actually observe our patients poop under the microscope, which I know sounds a little icky, but it has to happen. We're a hospital, right? We deal a lot with poop. And we will look under the microscope, or Nina will, and she checks for parasites. She wants to make sure we don't spread parasites in our hospital. But what she finds sometimes are little pieces of plastic. And sometimes we have patients that are tiny, 4 or 5 pounds, and they'll poop out these huge pieces of plastic bags or balloons. It happens all the time. You've probably all seen that video of the sea turtle with a straw up its nose. So this is another one of the most common items found out on the beach. And again, it's because they're so light, right? So if I have my drink at the beach, and this will fly away so easily. So it's very, very important. If you're gonna be using plastics, please keep track of them while you're at the beach. The wind can blow away anything. The tides can come up and take your items, right? One item that the tides often take are shoes. So we find shoes all the time as well. You can see these sandals have turtle bites in them as well. So make sure you're always keeping an eye out on your shoes. I like to put mine up near the beach accesses, so very far away from the water, just so I don't even have to worry about them, right? Because obviously we don't want to lose our shoes, and they're also very harmful to ocean life. We also find a lot of snack wrappers and things like that, so that's one of the other common items found at the beach. So this is a little Capri Sun. Again, very, very light, very easily blown away. You guys might have heard about these plastic rings for cans. These are another huge item, and you might have seen photos of animals that get entangled in these items, and it's very, very difficult for them to get out. With sea turtles especially, if they're entangled around a piece of trash, they're going to try to break free, and sometimes what they end up doing is getting even more entangled in that object. And that is one of the main problems with trash in our environment, that animals are not only going to eat it and mistake it for food, they can also get entangled in it. Our newest patient was actually entangled in fishing line. Fishing line is another common item that we find out on the beach. Any discarded fishing gear, gear that has been lost, anything like that is a huge, huge threat to sea turtles. Whether it be nets, hooks, buoys, whatever it might be, it's very, very harmful. Now I want to actually go out into our museum and show you this display we have. If you've ever been to our facility, I would love to know if you've seen this display before. It's a trash tunnel where we show kind of what it looks like to animals that are in the ocean when they're surrounded by a sea of plastic. We also just put up a brand new addition to that display. It is a whale tail made out of plastic bottles. So I'm actually gonna walk out there and show you. Of course, I'm gonna put my mask on since I will be around people. So I'm gonna walk you out into the museum. If you have any questions about trash or sea turtles, please let me know. Let me walk out here really quick. And let me turn the camera around so you're gonna be able to see this. So this is our brand new whale tail. So it is completely made up of plastic bottles. It's pretty incredible, right? So it's very, very big. If I stand back here, you'll be able to see how enormous it is. So this is in our museum at our facility. We are open to visitors if you're close by and want to come see it in person. We also have this beautiful turtle This is Josie the loggerhead that is made out of completely by trash. It was donated by an artist. Really, really incredible work. Just shows how you can repurpose things like trash and make it into beautiful art. Now I'm actually going to take you through this little trash tunnel that we have. So this is our marine debris tunnel. And you can see all this trash that we have found right here out on South Padre Island. And we filled this tunnel with this trash to show people. Sometimes when you go out in areas in the water, this is what it looks like. Tons and tons of plastic. Some areas that are affected by plastic pollution also kind of look like what we call plastic soup, where all these plastics have been there so long that they've broken up into tiny, tiny little pieces of plastic that we call microplastics. And these microplastics are particularly harmful because they're very, very difficult to clean up. They're also going to be mistaken for food by animals as well. So you can get a good look at this. It's very interesting to see just what it would look like if you were swimming around in an environment full of trash. And I have one last thing I want to show you. This is also a brand new display that we created this summer. We partnered up with Dr. Cheryl Harrison at UTRGV, and it's called Motion in the Ocean, and it's about ocean currents. And the reason I want to bring this up, because it's very relevant right now, this is a model of the ocean currents in the Gulf of Mexico. And currents can actually transport trash, right? And that's a huge problem, but also makes for some amazing models because we're able to predict where this trash is going to end up. Do any of you know what these tiny plastic pellets are? We find them washed up on the beach all the time. It's a very silly sounding word, but it's really, really important to know what these are. I'll give you a second to see if you know what they are. So these tiny plastic pellets are actually called nurdles. They are manufactured and shipped to factories where they're actually melted down, and those are then molded into commonly used plastic products. So basically, they're the building blocks of plastics. So we find a ton of these washed up on the beach. If I go out on the beach right now, it is very likely if I pick up some sand, I'm gonna find either some microplastics or these tiny plastic pellets called nurdles. And those nurdles are so teeny tiny that they're very, very hard to see at first. But once you start looking in the sand and around the environment there, you're gonna find them. And they're very, very harmful because again, they're very difficult to clean up. And also, they also look like fish eggs. And so to animals, they might mistake them for food as well. And we have to think of it this way too. How many of you eat seafood? If you eat seafood, there's a chance that you could be eating plastic, because if a fish is eating those nurdles, those tiny plastic pellets, and a bigger fish eats that, and then you eat that fish, there's a chance you could end up with plastic or the toxins that are carried by plastics by eating. So it's kind of icky to think about that, right? But there are so many reasons why we need to keep our environment clean and free of marine debris. And sea turtles are one of those reasons, right? They are affected negatively all the time by this marine debris, and it's truly up to us to fix our mistakes because we put that trash in their environment and it's up to us to correct it, right? So as I mentioned, cleaning up the trash you see around when you go to the beach, that's a huge thing. If you don't live by the coast, that's okay, right? You can clean up the trash in your communities and by your home because all rivers lead to the ocean. And also, it's not just sea turtles that are affected by trash. It's all wildlife. So if you're cleaning up trash around you, you might be saving a bird's life. You might be saving a small mammal's life. Just think of it that way. Every small action you take can have an impact, a positive impact. Also, reducing your single use, right? There are a lot of things that we use once and then throw away. As I mentioned before, a lot of the time trash ends up in our environment accidentally. So even if you're being a good steward and not littering, by using a lot of plastic products, you're contributing to those piles and piles of trash, right? So reducing your single use is very, very important. We talked about balloons. If you're gonna have balloons, please, please don't release them, right? I used to release them when I was a little girl. I'll admit that. I used to let go of my birthday balloon because I thought it floated away, but that's not what happens. And when we learn that behaviors we're doing negatively affect wildlife, we have to correct them. So it's okay to say, I messed up. But now moving forward, I don't use balloons and I definitely don't release them. So it's really truly up to us for everything that can affect these animals, right? Because each and every one of you has that power. Never get discouraged. I know it can be very sad to see these images of animals like sea turtles negatively affected by trash. That video of that turtle with the straw up its nose really tugged at a lot of people's heartstrings, and that's important. But we have to then act, right? It's okay to be sad and it's okay to be overwhelmed, but we have to act and we have to do some good. And one of my favorite quotes and kind of ideas concerning these issues is that it's okay to be imperfect. If all of us are trying to live a sustainable life imperfectly, if we're taking those small steps, each and every one of you, imagine the impact you could have, right? So never get discouraged because you feel like you're not the perfect steward for the environment, or you go to Starbucks and get a plastic cup. Those things are okay, but as long as you're actively working to correct the wrongdoings that we've done, right, by dumping all that trash in the environment, we're doing good. And if you do it for the rest of your lifetime, imagine the impact you could have as an individual. So never get discouraged. I promise each and every one of you has that power. I mention that to people when they come to our talks at the facility. And I think that's the greatest message we can tell people. Each and every one of you has that power. Never get discouraged. There are always things you could be doing. And if you're doing them imperfectly, that's okay, because I'm an imperfect human too. So if you have any questions about trash or turtles, please let me know in the comments below. I will get to them later. Thank you so much for tuning into this Facebook Live. We love doing these Facebook Lives because it allows us to reach so many more people than our facility does. So thank you so much for continuously tuning in. It's really wonderful to see the same names and new ones popping up in the comments. It really warms my heart to know that you are all watching these videos. Thank you all so much, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.